from last week, we discussed about the forecasting, okay, and we have a case study, right? So at the end of today, we're gonna have the presentation, okay? So before we have the presentation from the case study, so let's start with the topic for today. That would be the design of goods and services. Okay. So actually, everyone knows that one of the main strategy for every company is about develop the product and services and provide to the customers. Okay. And we can see that the company or the organization that have the very good products, right, have the innovative product and have the very excellent service. They have the probably getting the potential to have the higher income. So no doubt that the product and services is play important role for the business. So in the operation as well. Okay. So for today we're gonna discuss about the concept behind of how can we design product and services. Right. We are not talking about the design thinking or that's kind of concept, but we're gonna talk about in the context of operation. Right. For example, mass customization or the modular design, that kind of thing that you need to know, right, in order to understand about the way of design of good product and services. So this is like major factor in the strategy for making the design. So you can using the major factor of cost for designing products. So we can see that the low cost strategy, the product that provide the enough capability that can serve for the need and the want the customer, but doesn't provide more excellent feature because they try to keep the core of the product that especially necessary for the customer. For example, very directly example is for the low cost airline, something like that. So that the way that when they're starting design of the strategy of the low cost design, low cost airline, they design that what the customer wants, right? In the case of using the airline, so they want to travel, right, from using a plane from place to another place, safely. But other is that's just like the thing that airport. So maybe it doesn't necessarily. They can cut off that cost, right, and make the core products, right, getting the have like with the advantage of the business, something like that. So that's starting with the major factor of cost to design the products, or maybe in the case of qualities, we know that you have the Lexus, or you think about the Apple, we can Louis Vuitton, whatsoever, right? We can have the perception about the qualities, right? So that is a strategy for design, right? So you can see there are a lot of strategy of making the design, or even though the time to market, right? Time to market is also been one of the major factor of design, right? It means that if you can launch the products, if you can provide the fastest services to the customer, you can have the advantage over your rivals, right? Something like that. So anyway, no matter what the major factor of the organization, taking into the design strategy, don't forget that every strategy about the design, including or redesign, they should closely align with the organization strategy. So this is really important. Okay, and you can see that for the activities of the design of product and services, it's not just making a design. Right? You can see that this is quite several activities that we can see uh, is like the idea behind when you're doing like the design of product and service, including about the first, maybe you need to formulate the quality or the cost target before you make a design. If you remember the first class of our study, I'm talking about the IKEA, remember? So the important things of the IKEA is about designer. The designer, they're getting right the target of the cost for each product. For example, okay, you are a designer, you need to make a design of the table, and please make that the design for the table cost not over $400 something. So the designers, so then they have their work to do, making the design, and when they produce, the cost of making that table will not be exceed $400 something. So this is the activity, right? You formulate the quality, the level of quality that you want, also the cost, right? So this is depend on your strategy, and also things about redefine the existing products and service aspect. Okay, and one thing that we know for sure is about once you make the design, you complete it, and you produce it, and you cannot launch it immediately. You need to test the prototype, you need to testing the market, something like that. And also the document for the specification is also be the part of the design as well. Right? And this is the detail for the decision of designing product. Right? You can see that typically the top organization, okay, for sure that they have the several products in their organization, but mainly they're gonna have like their core products, right? Normally they're gonna focusing on that core products more than others. For example, maybe you can see that right now, let's say, who is working at a PTT company? No, not you. Protocol. Oh, surprising. So in the past, when I started about the PTT, SCT, something like that, we're gonna have like some student raise their hands. Okay, let's say about the PTT, right? So in the past, they are like this energy company, right? But we know that the energy is changed, right? So now they invest in several industry. And one of the major industry that they just split out, right, is about, maybe you know about the PTT Oak, right? So they're focusing more on the, retail, and also about the Amazon cafe, making the coffee something. So in the future, right, they try to, move to other business that is not the energy, like not the oil, sorry. So that's kind of thing that sometimes when the time pass, right, the core of the product may be changed, but organization, normally they try to make decision and focusing typically on the core product. And don't forget that every product and services is, we try to respond to the customer satisfaction. So if you just make a design of the products by, okay, you think that this is a very cool product, but you are not studying what the customer want and need, you're gonna fail. So it's just simple, but it's difficult that right, the need inside of the customer, what they want actually, right, what they want actually. So sometimes the part of the design of service and product, I'm gonna talk, sometimes it's linked to the marketing part as well. Because the information of the customer, what they want actually is come from the part of the marketing, that then you need to go out and try to find out what inside that customer want. Okay, and also that we can see that this is the three major strategies that very main for the strategy of making the design of the product and service. Low cost, differentiation. How can you differentiate the products and services with your competitors, right? and also the rapid response. So this one, again, is not just mean that you faster, but in the term of time to market as well. Right? If you can launch the products very fast to the market, you have the potential to capture your customer first more than the competitors. So this is mainly right. But actually, what would be the reason, right, that we make design or redesign? So sometimes it doesn't come from, or this is for the time that we're gonna do, but actually it's come from this kind of the opportunities, right, economics, right? You can see that, for example, in the past, we have no eco car, we have no more condominium in Bangkok, right? In the past, if you want to having some of your residents, you think about buying a house. But right now, so even though you just graduated from your bachelor degree, you're working just 1 or 2 years looking for about a condominium that's very close to your workplace, something like that. So it depends, right, on this kind of factor that change and making that some opportunity to design or thinking about the new service and new product. Or in this, recently, maybe you heard about the 7-Eleven. They develop just like not the big shop, but just like a slot machine that you just buy something like the frozen food or there's some hamburgers frozen, something like that you can want to have when you have a hungry when you're working in the building, so something like that. And you're gonna see that about the trend, right, about the ready food is quite getting higher than during this time. So some places in Bangkok, you can see that they have like they're not in the restaurant, but it's just like a business that you have the ready food that you can pick up, right, and warm, like using the microwave, and you can have a place to eat. Right? So for example, it's as close here is for the Sathorn Square building at the Chong Mun Si BTS. They have like one restaurant is called Busy, or I cannot remember. But I used to be, visit that place, and I see that at first they have like a, pack of ready food, right? And I think that, okay, the price is quite high. How can they compete with the 7-Eleven? I believe that everybody, you used to go to the 7-Eleven and you grab something, right? That's just like pad see ew or gapao mu sap or something like that, right? And back home and eat at the home. So what the things, I think that they will not success for sure because the price of the food is quite high, right? But I'm wrong, right? When they just start open until now, I think they sold out every day. Right? Even though that okay, the main advantage is about the location, but it's located in the office building, close to the hotel, okay, close to the 7-Eleven, even though they have the same products. But the thing, another secret is about they have a place to eat. So for example, you can look at the shelf and you pick up that ready food, but it's warming up already, and you have the table. You can sit down and you eat and you're done. Okay. So, but in 7-Eleven, sometimes you can see that maybe they have like a small place, like just 3 or 4 seats that the customer buying the product and have a seat to eat something like that. But I'm so and see in that shop, and they say that okay, this may be the design something that very different. Okay. Another thing is about okay, we go. The government change, right, the law, or even though like the political change, so you may have the chance to develop the new product or service. Right? Even though I see a lot of the hostel, right? Hostel, right? Right now the hostel can have like more differentiate, right, than in the past. One of my students, I think about 12, and he is He's setting up his business about the hostel, but he's called Postel. So it's more luxury than hostel. But another one of my students, they do the real business and the real success. He is like develop a hostel that especially for the digital nomad person, something like that. So this is about the lifestyle and social chain, and then you can have that idea to develop or redesign your business. Right? And technological, for sure, when you have the technology change, it can enhance that you can have more opportunity to design the new product and service. Right? So you can see, technology, for example, anyone else that using like study the computer in the past and you're using like a diskette, the big one, 5 inches. Do you have to use that one? Oh, so how about you? Because when I was in the college studying my bachelor degree, okay, this is really cool. You have like the 5 inches for diskettes, study about the Fortran or Pascal, basics, language, something programming. But right now you can exchange technology change, and so I believe that within 1 or 2 years, everything is going to be on cloud. Right? On cloud. So it's flash drive is out already. Right now it's not the one that maybe you're using. Everything is always on cloud. So that's kind of have the chance for business to develop the new product and service. So this is a key question, right? If you would like to design your product and service, so do you have that demand, right? And the market side of your product and service. So for example, when you do the business, especially maybe you can develop your IS about the business plan. One part that you need to first is about the demand forecasting. Yes, you need to estimate your demand, but before they estimate the demand, you need to specific about your market size, right? And don't forget that you have the idea, but how about the execution? Do you have the ability to make that product? The idea is very cool, but in the real world, can you make it? So in the term of business, not just only the idea, but also you need to think about your ability to make the production or produce that product. And also, not only the ability to produce the product, also you can think in the term of manufacturability. In the case that, okay, if you can have is easy to make the production, so you can have is not that complex to make the production, so it's very cool. It's good for the design, right? And because if you have the more complex, when you try to make the production, it means that you have more cost. Okay, so ability of making the product and also how easy that you can design the product that you can produce is very important. So with ability as well, this is the important part today. We no doubt that okay, in the real world right now, almost all organization they have both product and service together as a product package. Right? Have the product and also service. Sometimes service is a big part of the revenue of them. Like for example, if you try to sell the software or the ERP, just like SAP, right? So the price of that software is high, but higher is about the service or the license continue for the next year and next 2 years, something like that. Or even though you need to doing the training for the employees, something like that. Okay. Okay. This is the overall of the key point of the design of the product and service. Okay, the level of the qualities. So how can you compete with your competitors? You're gonna have the quality in the same level of the competitor, or you're gonna provide more quality than the competitors to meet the customer expectation. Okay, so this kind of thing that you need to think. And one thing is, is very important. Just like in the marketing part, it's about the product life cycle. as I mentioned that you need to know the customer insight, right? So if you want to play in watch market or what products industry, you need to understand the product life cycle of that industry. So yes, product life cycle is quite, you can range the length from a few hours to a decade, right? A few hours such as like a newspaper, you buy this morning, right? At noon, it doesn't work anymore because the news is also update every minute, every hour. Right? But some of the product life cycle is still prolonged for a long time, just like car or something like that. So we still use car, something like that. And in order to understand the how can we make the design of the products and service to serve for customer, you need to know about the product life cycle of the product industry that you're gonna play with. Okay, and yes, for the product life cycle, every state, right, they also have the different strategy of the products, right? So you can see here, typically for the product life cycle, we can divide it into 4 states: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. So each of them have the different strategy, and you can see that they have the cost develop and the revenue that's quite different. For sure that at the beginning, right? If you look at the cash flow, for sure that the first 2 states, the cash flow is usually is negative, right? Because you make an invest, you do like the R&D, so you spend the money, right? And you can have the positive cash flow when you have reached about the at the end of the growth state. And also in the term of cost, the cost is quite high at the beginning, but once you have your experience, when you have the economy of scale, right? When you have the mass of your production, that the cost of development is gonna getting lower. So finally, right, the net of the sale and revenues you're gonna have much more at the maturity state. And what kind of strategy for each product life cycle that we need to understand? Okay, for sure, the first one is about the introduction. This is just like the fine-tuning step because you're just making the design the products. You just need to do like the R&D. So normally it's about the state of product development. You modify, you try to find the good way of the production or the process to do that product, something like that. Right? And for sure that sometimes in the introduction step, right, you need more marketing, right, things to introduce your product to the customer. Right? But I also try to keep connection with the supplier, right? And for sure, when you have like the growth state, everything is look good because you have the higher demand. So the strategy that's suitable for the growth state is that you need to increase your capacity. Because you have the demand, huge demand outside, but if you don't have enough capacity to serve for that demand, you're gonna lose for the game. So actually, the very important is about enhancing about the capacity, right? Because if you have more capacity, you have more chance to getting higher market share in the case of growth state. And for sure, for the growth state, you have a huge demand. You make the production, you produce a huge output. So the cost per unit, right, is getting lower, right? It depends. This is because your economy of scale just starting, not that full speed, but it's starting that the cost is getting a little bit lower, and also the design is more stabilized because you know that okay, this is the type of the things that the customer want. They have the huge demand, so all the things that you need to do is about having more capacity and serve for that demand. And when you come to the third step, that would be the maturity. As I mentioned, that you're gonna having more economy of scale. But don't forget, maturity means it's a red ocean only. because from the previous state, right, you have the higher or huge demand. So the players come to play with you, company, right? Because they see the opportunities, right, that they're gonna capture about the huge of market share. So when you have a lot of the player, right, to compete with the same business, so you have the red ocean, and it's starting the maturity state of the product. So what kind of thing that you need to do as a strategy for the maturity state? For sure that you still keep high volume of capacity, but at the same time you think about, for sure that the demand is not that very high, not increasing. So you keep it stable for the volume of your capacity. But you need to think about the redesign in order to make your product more, interesting. Or besides the redesign, maybe you can think about the way of, reducing about the cost. Right? Reducing about the production cost, using the economic of scale, can you reach that? So even though that you don't have the very huge demand growth, but you can keep the, the benefit of the lower cost to getting the higher profit. So this is kind of maturity state. Things about the lower of the production cost, advantage of the economic of scale, improve or redesign, right, the product to have more interesting. But anyway, when the product life cycle come to the last stage, that will be the decline state. So sometimes it's the time to the end, right? So if you don't have the thing that, to show that kind of product is about the product that people or the customer know in your company. So maybe you need to, eliminate, right, and not compete with that product anymore. But on the other hand, if the product is in the decline state, but that product is about your image of your brand or your company, others people or the customer know your company from that product. So it doesn't good that you're gonna eliminate that product line, but maybe you can keep it at the minimum, and just see that you can continue to do that product, something like that. But anyway, it depends on the strategy. I'm just showing you as an overall, right, the strategy that normally is going to happen. Another thing is quite interesting is about the importance of the new products. Normally, you can see that when we look in every almost industry, you're going to see that the industry leader, right, the leader company, normally they're going to have the high percentage of the new product more than others. So what does it mean? It means that if you are the leader, if you have the highest profitability, so you need to continue to design more and more new products. If you stop, you're gonna starting losing something, because you can see that leading company always launch the new product every year. Right? You still need to have the new products. You still need to have your new, even though not that new one, maybe you have the minor change or you have something new, right? Because this is quite a secret of the leader company of the industry. And also, sometimes if you have more than one product, right, you can do what we call the product by value analysis, that to analyze that which product that you need to keep it more important, right, and pay attention with, right. It doesn't mean that the product that have the higher margin should be the product that you're gonna keep eye on, that like the very special product for you. But on the other hand, we're looking at the overall as an annual term. So which product as an annual term that provide you more revenue, maybe that product line should be the one that you should focusing, right? So for example, this is just like a very funny example. Just say that, okay, I have another company called the name of the furniture company, Sam Furniture Company. This company or these factories, produce several chairs here, right? Love seats, armchair, footstool, and recliner. And for sure that if you just thinking that for the margin for the individual products, maybe recliner should be the one that you need to keep use focus to, right? Because the individual contribution or the margin is quite high, right? But if you look at the overall at the annual term, recliner is not the one. Actually, it should be the armchair. Okay, so this is the thing that the company is always doing, right? Not just looking for the individual contribution, but you look at the annual term, and then you can see which part, right, of your product line or your business that giving you more contribution of the annual term, right? And another thing is that if you, I also mentioned about the opportunity of the new products. This one is not okay here. Yeah, brainstorming. So we are not Steve Jobs, right? We are not the one that one thing that we think something that new and ahead for others for 5 or 10 years. So everyone sometimes the idea beside the new product opportunity from this kind of factor, sometimes it comes from brainstorming. Just keep talking, discussion, right? And sometimes we have the idea about the products. Right? And don't forget the brainstorming is not just like that. You need to have the good idea only. Brainstorming, the key important thing about this tool is about you need to generate a lot of idea, no matter what is good or bad. So keep generate the idea and idea, and then after that you can make the arrangement or classify, and then you can see that sometimes you can have the opportunity to having the new products. Yes, beside of these opportunities, you're doing the brainstorming. So this is a great secret for every company. And for the system, this is like the normal system that I mentioned before. Right? You have an idea, right? Have the idea. But doesn't mean good, because you need to think about how you execute. How about ability of our organization? If you have enough abilities, so then the process of the system is started. Customer requirement normally is come from the marketing thing, right? You're looking for the insight of the customer. But it doesn't mean that all the customer requirement you need to install into your product. Sometimes it cannot, you cannot have every requirement that customer want fit into your product. So sometimes you need to classify and select, right? So from the customer requirement, you need to make the decision, okay, what would be the functional specification of your product based on the customer requirement. And then is scoped down into the spec of the product. Yes, you need to design, right? You review, right? You testing after you design, and you make the introduction. And don't forget to make the evaluation. And this kind of thing you can see, right? This is the scope of the design team, including about the engineering team. From translate from the marketing information, right, until you finish the prototype and you test in the market. Right. And this kind of process, is going to improve and improve, right, from time to time. If you are still focusing on the same product, I believe that you know the movie Iron Man, right? Have you watched Iron Man before? If you watch Iron Man from the first one, it's like a really big one. It doesn't look like a superhero. But when the time passed, right, as Tony Stark, it just developed, right, a very good one. And you can see that every series of the Iron Man, the way that the change from Tony Stark to the Iron Man is very cool, right? Just first starting and to the last one, right? Just do something and it's flying, right? Assembling yourself or something. So just like this one. At first you're making it, you're testing it, so in the process it's gonna keep up, right? make the delivery design, and try to make it more getting better. Okay, that would be the overall, right? So now we're gonna start with the concept of design. So one of the concepts of the designing is about, maybe you heard about this before, we call QFD. QFD is come from the quality function deployment. The QFD, or the quality function deployment, this is about the concept that we try to link the customer want or the requirement from the customer into the design of the products. Right. So one of the important tool of the QFD is about the how of qualities. Right. So this is the tool that using in the concept of QFD, right, house qualities, right, that try to translate what the customer wants into the products and then make the design of the product. So the house quality consists of several parts. Right? They're starting with the first one is about what the customer wants, and then how can you satisfy that customer want, and what would be the one that you're going to satisfy. How about the interrelationship between those things? Right? How about ranking and see which attribute that you need to focusing as first and prioritize them. And how about analyze with your competitor, and finally come up with the technical attribute for that product. So in order to make you better understanding, I will show you using this example. It's quite old one, but it's classic one, because right now suppose that you is one of the team that gonna have the duty to making the design of the new camera for the company, great camera company. So yes, when you're gonna make the design of the camera, the new one, just back 10 more years, 20 years ago. So first, maybe you think about, okay, using a house quality. So this camera, starting with the first part, remember what the customer wants. Yes, you need to find information. So what kind of the characteristic of the camera that customer really want, and really want in the have it in the camera products. Right? This is a list, lightweight. It should be easy to use, the reliable of the camera, easy to hold steady, or no double exposure. Right. So this is let's say this is an example of kind of thing that customer think that okay they want from the camera. What next? You need to rating. Highest score is 5 in this case because you have 5. So maybe the first one that the customer giving the high score for the one from your camera is more reliable. Right? The latest one is about the raw exposure, something like that. So what next? So this is what the customer wants. The next thing is that okay, in the term that you are one of the team of this design team, you need to think that okay, how can you satisfy this kind of customer want? So it comes from to the second part of our quality we call how to satisfy the customer want. Okay, so things about auto exposure, autofocus, aluminum component, and so on, something like that. Okay, so this kind of support that this is the thing that okay, this is the attribute that you think that is gonna respond to that customer want. And then what? It doesn't mean that everyone that you think is gonna serve for the customer want can be positive related together. Sometimes it's discrete together. For example, not thinking about camera. So maybe you want the smartphone that have a really big screen, very long life battery, but you want is really thin. So in this part, maybe it's not compatible that you're gonna have all those attributes stored in one product. Because the last screen is require more energy, right? From the from the battery. The higher battery can provide you more energy, but higher battery is gonna keep your smartphone your screen get a little bit thicker. So just kind of things, the same things. So the attribute that you think, so you need to analyze that what would be the related between that the attribute that you're gonna think that is gonna respond to the customer one. Right? So for example, how it's related together, is positive or negative, something like that. In this figure, it shows just it have the relationship together. It doesn't show about the positive or negative. For example, low electric requirement and the auto exposure maybe is related together. You can do something that keep both, or it have the something that related have the relationship together, something like that. And then we need to think about, okay, beside what the customer want and that kind of attribute that you think is gonna respond to the customer want. So what would be the ranking or the one that we should do keep it in the product first, or have the higher priorities than others attributes. So then we're gonna do like the weight average or do like the weight ratings, right? So this kind of come from, okay, first remember that on the first part, you have the ranking score for each of them. The second, for each this attribute, right, it's gonna merging with, with this kind of attribute that you think that you can have it to, satisfy the customer one. But then you have the kind of show about the relationship, right? That this kind of attribute, how can it respond to the requirement or the want of the customer? So maybe this one, right? For the lightweight, right? It has the low relationship to respond. Easy to use, maybe low relationship, but for reliable, maybe it's like a medium relationship, something like that. So you're rating based on the customer want, the characters, this is something like this. And then you calculate, right, the score. For example, for the low relationship, I have it for 1 point, medium is 3 points, and high relationship maybe 5 points, something like that. So then you can know your points, right, and then you multiply with the weight. Right? That would be the ranking of each characteristic that the customer wants from the camera. Right? For example, 1 multiplied with 3, you have 3. 1 multiplied with 4, you have 4. Right? 3 multiplied with 5, you have 15. So 15 plus 4 plus 7, you have 22, something like that. So then you're gonna know about the important rating. So when you compare among all these attributes that you're gonna respond to what the customer wants, then you can know that, okay, which of the attribute that you need to keep it more or have the highest importance that you should include into your product first as a priorities of the attribute. And also don't forget to compare with the competitors. So then think about their competitors' products. How can they respond to, how can their product respond to each aspect of the customer want, right? In this case, G is good, F is fair, P is poor, something like that. So it depends on you giving the score. And finally, right, you can make the conclusion that, okay, for each attribute, right, based on importance, and also what kind of technical evaluation that you should have for each attribute, right? And you can also, classify it, compare with the competitor aspect. So this is just an example. It doesn't mean that, okay, you need to do this for me, but I just show you that, this is an idea of how important it is. I have one of my students, he's an executive MBA, so several years ago. He worked in the Toyota. Right? Toyota also used house quality to make the design. Right? And this is a complete how the quality for this one, for the camera. And yes, the concept is still having continued. In our class, yes, we study just only the first how. That would be the customer requirement, and we think about the design of the characteristic that respond to the customer want or customer requirement. But we can adapt, right, into the second one, the third one, the fourth one, right? For example, from the design characteristic, you can give it as a base, right, and think about the specific components to respond for this design characteristic. And for the third how, specific component can be the question. And you can think about the production process to respond to this component, something like that. So it have the same concept to improve and improve to the last one. Right? But in our class, okay, we're just talking about the first one, that if you have the requirement of the customer, how can you, making the design for the characteristic of the product. Okay. And another one is quite important so far in the real world is that right now for the product development, right, we see a lot as a team approach for every organization, almost all of them. In the past, right, it's just like the duty for only one distinct department, design department, something like that. They have the responsibility, have their duty to dealing with the design and so on. But the problem is that we can see that when you're making the design of the product and service, it not just involve only the one department as the just only the design department. So you need to working or link with the department or the marketing, right? You need to think about how you make the production, right? You need to think about the suppliers or designer and so on. So today it's just like the team approach, right? So it's just like the cross-functional that all the representative from each department that involved in this product gonna have working together. So then we call concurrent engineering. This is a concept that we have the representative from each department to work together in the design process. So the good way is that if something wrong or if you want to design or making the new design the new thing, so you can know what others are already doing. That is mean that you can make design the component or the process or the part that compatible with others that already make the design. So this kind of the concept that we call concurrent engineering. So it's come from the cross-functional team. So the appetite is about the time. It's about the shortening the time when you make the design. So it means that you can launch product early. Okay. And besides this one, as I mentioned, it is about the manufacturability and also the value engineering. So manufacturability is about how can you make it easy to make the production for your company. It's really important because if you make it very complex and very difficult to make the production, so you can getting the higher cost, right? And okay, I will give you more detail here. So let's talk about the benefit of manufacturability and value engineering. Right? So the benefit is quite, obvious that okay, it's gonna reduce the complexity of the products. So it means that you're gonna have more standard part. You're gonna have more standardization of the products. Yes, for sure that if you have more standard part, you can have something that more routine about the purchasing, and also how can you maintenance is much more easier than the complexity complex product, right? And also another benefits of the value engineering and manufacturability is about the safety, right? You can improve all the job design and safety of the products as well, or you can have other functions that include. So this kind of example to show you really good for understanding. So each of the things here is using the same objective. I don't know what it's called. It's just like, the thing that maybe you can connect to others. Every product here, they can using with the same objective, but they have the different costs and different, how easier to make the production. For example, you can see the first one is really, difficult to make the production because you need to drilling. They have the very huge hole here, right? And you have the bowl to connect. You can have the taper, so it's quite difficult to making this form, right? So if you calculate per unit, maybe the cost of this kind of product is to $50. The second one is more improved from the first one. In the case that there is no big hole, you consist with two parts, but it blends together and then connects. So it's better than the first one. The price or the cost per unit is getting lower. But the third one is the best one. This is because it's very easy to make the production than the second one. Right? Because you have no need to bench both of them. Just this one and this one just connect at the bottom and you're done. So the cost per unit is getting lower. So my point is that this is concept of value engineering. So at first, maybe you design the product, you have something like this at first, but then you need to keep moving for continue improvement of your design. Think about how can you make it easier to make the production. How can you make it easier to, making the more routine work here, keeping the lower cost, also have the more standard parts, something like that. Okay. Because if you have this more complex, things about in the term of output, it's getting lower output. It's difficult to make the production. You have the more part. If you have more part, you have more inventory. You have more inventory, getting more cost. You require more space, you require more warehouses, something like that. Okay, so this is a concept of value engineering. And also, we also have the issue for the product development as well. We talk with some of them, but some of them is not focused in our class. For example, let's start with the standardization. Standardization is mean that, okay, you make the design of the product that using the concept that no need to have the much more variety in the product or service. Right? So it's it's quite simple. Standardized products is really ready available for the customer because it's real fast, right? It's required just the standard part and just a few parts for make the production or manufacturing. So the design costs are generally lower, okay? And the training cost and time, for sure, is getting lower because this is not the complex products, right? And also the routine of purchasing, inspection, or others activity is much more, more routine. So it's gonna keep you, not that have changing much about how the work design or how configure of your workforce to working with, because everything has a routine. And the quality is just more consistent because it's very standard. So this is a good thing for the standardized product. But the bad thing or the disadvantages, that okay, if you have the product that more standardized, it means that at the same time on another side, the advantages, the disadvantages is about, it's just like, something that doesn't have a variety for your customer. So it doesn't, attractive to the customer. And at the same time, we know that the advantage of the standardization is about the lower cost of the design, right? But if you have to change something or you change the design, the cost is getting high. Why? Because for more standardized products, everything is mean that it depends on the machine. The machine is more high tech, more very good technology, because you need the machine or the equipment that real fast, right, to make the production is a high output. But if you change the design, you need to change the machine. So the cost of design change is very high. Because normally the machine, the system like that for the standardized product, is just specific for that product only. If you need something changed, it means that you need to pay for more cost of change that machine or change of that production system. And also, we can see that for the advantages, another thing is about inventory. As I mentioned, if you have the lower part for the standardization, you have the lower inventory. Right? And also the opportunity to getting automation, as I mentioned about the machine, because everything is more high tech, more technology, that to produce the things that have more patterns, more standardized. So this kind of compare to show you about the good thing of the standardization and the bad thing of the standardization. So based on the standardization, then we have another one we call mass customization. For the mass customization, it's just like produce or design that standardized products, but still keep some degree that we gonna customize the customer. So normally we have two approaches here that we can classify it to be the mass customization. This is the delay differentiation and the modular design that can be the part of mass customization. So what is the delay differentiation? Delay differentiation. So delay differentiation is just like you can think about the tactic that you try to postpone, right? The customer by before you deliver the product or the service to the customer, right? You still need the want the customer to customize something, right? Of their want. So for example, let's think about, in the past we have like when you make an order about the BMW or the Toyota Yaris in the past, or the iPod Classics, you can have a chance to design the sticker, you have the chance to design about the Mac wheel of the car, you have the design of the console, something like that. That would be the delay differentiation. Or the easy one, right? Let's think that okay, you right now you sell I don't know what it's called. Meatball, something like that. Sauces, or but you have more dipping the sauce to let the customer to select the one that they want. You have 20 sauce to let the customer select before you deliver that product to the customer. This kind of tactic, not complete 100%, but before you deliver to the customer, you let the customer do something that they want. Let the customer customize. So we call the delay differentiation. And another one is the modular design. For the modular design, so we see a lot in everyday, right? Because right now the concept of modular design, we see a lot of product. Because the modular design is about that you try to make the design of the product that have like the module connect together. So if you have like some component as a module to connect together at the design of when you make the design of that product, what would be the good thing for the modular design? The biggest advantage of the modular design is about the way that you maintenance. So if something that happened for one module, you just split it out and giving the new one to connect it. Okay. So you have no need to change the whole product. You just change the part or the module that have the problem. So the maintenance is quite easier, right? And also, is improve the ability to satisfy the customer requirement. So sometimes the customer needs something that different. So I used to have the example, use the example in the past, at more than 10 years, but it's really, obvious to see the benefit of the modular design. For example, let's think about past 15 years ago about when you want to buy the notebook from the website. Let's say the Dell company or something. In the past, when you buy the notebook, for example, in US, right? You buy the new book, you have the new one. For me, I give the example of myself. Almost, yes, 20 years ago when I was studying in US. Okay, I bought my new notebook, HP. It's really cool. And when you study board, right? One thing that every Thai student used to do it is about watching in that era is about the VCD, the Mong Kwan Yo. I don't know. This is those kind of things, It's have a series, not DVD, it's VCD, that. But that the notebook is designed, the tray of the disc, right, CD. It's just for working, not for watching much for the VCD. So I have there a lot of series of Chinese movie and also Thai movie, something like that, by using my notebook, and it had a problem. And in one day, I also had the problem with my OS Windows. So if you have the problem with your operating system, so if you have no idea, the first thing that you need to do is about recover it, right? By reinstall it, right, about the window. But you need to install it using the CD. But the CD drive have a problem because I watched a lot of Mong Kwan Yo VCD. So I cannot do anything, So what happens if you have the problem with the notebook in the past? You don't have, you didn't have like the Pantip as in Thailand. You didn't have like the small shop as in Thailand. So one thing that you need to do is contact to the manufacturer, right? And they're gonna send you with the box. You need to send it back to them, right? Send the notebook back in the box to them. And you need to wait at least 2 weeks. And the cost of fixing that CD is almost $700 at the time. You bought one notebook is about $1,200, but just only one CD made is almost $700. So I think I buy the new one is better. So then I bought Dell notebook. The good way of that one is about that notebook, the Dell notebook of mine, have the concept of modular design because the bay of CD is can take it out and have another option to freaking in that. You can change from floppy drive to CD drive. You can change from CD drive to CD writer or something at that time. So this kind of modular design. So let's think about that. Okay, if I had the problem of watching Chinese movie series too much, I have the problem with the CD. What happened with the modular design? I just click the button, right? And you can this one fix it, and then have a new one to take it, right? So this kind of modular design, okay? And also let's think about in the term of reliability. We all know the reliability is quite important for the products, right? So here, this is a list of the word or the terminology that we need to understand. Reliability means the ability of the product's part or the system that it should be perform their function under this kind of set of the condition. So it means that in the normal condition, it should operate as it be. This means that have the reliability. If you don't have it, it means that you have the failure. One thing that's very interesting is about the normal operating condition. So you can see that almost every product, they need to specify this one in the document specification, or even though in the manual. Even though for the computers, you can see that maybe you used to see it already that, okay, this computer is working really good and up until the temperature of 50 Celsius, something like that. That's kind of tell you about the rate of normal operating condition, that the products are still performing very well as it should be. But if the condition is not when in the condition or normal condition that the product state, maybe you're going to have a problem. So normally it's said about the condition of the temperature. We see a lot about this. Okay, and another one is about things about the robot design. Right. Another issue is about the robot design. The robot design is about the concept that you try to instead of you try to eliminate the variation, right, of the environment that's going to affect to your product. You're gonna design the product that can have the ability to use in every condition of the environment allowed. In every condition. For example, let's say that the word robust is mean that you can use in almost all the condition, almost all the environments. So if we're talking about the wood, right, leather wood and the rubber wood, the rubber wood is more robust than the leather wood, because the rubber wood you can wearing and you walk in the snow, walk in the mud, walk in the water, something like that. It can use in almost all the conditions of environment. But for the leather wood, it's just very cool, right? It's fashionable, but it cannot wearing and walk in the snow or the water, because you're gonna have like the waters get into your wood, something. So the concept of the robot design is that, so every product, right, you're gonna have the small variation around them, right, in production or in the way that they're gonna use, that can make it have some problem. So besides that, we eliminate, instead of the we eliminate that condition or that variation, so why not we make the design of the product they can use in almost all the conditions, right? And it's typically result in lower cost and higher quality, because the concept of the design, you can think in the way that you make the design of you have the design some part or some component that can use in several of your products. You know about the Apple ecosystem, right? Or maybe you can think about, okay, Apple, you have like the iPhone, iPad, iWatch, or something like that. iPhone, you have too much generation, as well as the MacBook. So almost every product of Apple, they're using the concept of have the same chip. So you have one chip that you can use it with the iPhone, and also it can use with the iPad, something like that. So let's think in the term of you design some component that can use in several of your products. So it's meant that you can save about the cost, right? Because you can produce more, and it can use in almost all your products. So you're getting lower cost, and also you can improve and concentrate more, and maybe you have the chance of getting higher quality as well. Okay, and before I have a break, so just a little bit more is about the CAD and CAM. So it's about let's talk fast. CAD and CAM is about computer aided design, computer aided manufacturing. The idea is that we're using the computer to help enhance when you're making design, when you're making a manufacturing. So everything is programmable. And the thing that you program to make the design can have the signal to link with the machine and help you to make more manufacturing. So in the real world, the adapt things about using the computer to help of the design manufacturing, you can think about the 3D thinking. So it's the more advanced, right? That is, have the programmable that, okay, you're gonna make the printing of the 3D of the, this module. So you install the program to the computer, it's linked to the machine, and then it's gonna perform to make the production of that module. Okay, something like that. So benefit is not much that, okay, it's just like that you're using the computer to help. So it means that you're getting the better qualities, the time is faster, right? Production cost is reduced because you have more, automate machine and automate of the link between the design and manufacturing system. And one thing that's very obvious for the benefit of CAD/CAM is about the database available. Because you sending as a file or something like that, so it's very good. You can store everything that you make the design. So this is kind of the new range of capabilities, as I mentioned, for nowadays about the 3D printer, something like that. And virtual reality technology. So this kind of thing that you can see that you're using the computer technology to mimic and develop like a model, 3D model in the computer or in the screen that you can see, 360 degree of your products. For example, when you go to the website of automobile, you can see that you can have a chance to look inside your car that you're looking for. You can see the interior design. You can rotate the model to see the side, the back, the front, something like that, and almost 360 degree of the model you can rotate and see. So this kind of virtual reality technology. In the real world right now, this thing that we can use about, about the Amazon, about the Starbucks, that you can have, using your virtual reality technique to your business. For example, for the Amazon, you can using your cell phone to searching for the product, right? And then you can, using your cell phone to capture with the environment and just using that product to, support that you buy this one, what it look like when you place it in the room or something like that. Okay. So, or you can using like VR virtual things help in the the way that the doctor practice about doing the surgery or operation. Those kind of things using the concept of virtual reality technology that developed by not the real one, but combined with the real one with the simulation one. Okay. And lastly, before we have a break, is about the value analysis. Okay. The value analysis is about the way that you try to improve your design during the production. Because sometimes you have no idea when you make the design, but you are not see the real product yet, right? But you're gonna have an idea to improve the new product when you look or when you try to, consider during the production step. Because when you see the real one at the production step, you can see something. Maybe you can say that, oh, okay, you design this product just like this. It's made more difficult for the employee to make the production. Or you can see that, okay, you make the design just like this. It have the waste of the material a lot. There is more waste. Or maybe sometimes you can see that, okay, if you design something that have a smaller one, okay, you can have the keeping like the space of making the production really getting better, something like that, or reduce about the accident during the production state, something like that. So this kind of thing is come from the improvement during the production. We call the value analysis. Okay, and so this is the topic for issue of the product development. Okay, I'm gonna have the break here. Okay, and have the 15-minute break, and after you come back from there, we're going to continue with the concept of design of the product and service, and then we're going to have the case presentation.